Wonderful. Well, good morning, John McEwen with the New Jersey Theater Alliance, and welcome to our April Access Thursday Roundtable. We're very excited about this topic. We have not had this topic in previous sessions, so we're really excited to share this with you about creating inclusive environments for those with dementia. And we're really looking forward to a great discussion with a great panel. I just would like to start off with a visual description of myself. I'm a cis white male in my early 60s with brown and gray hair parted on the side, mustache and goatee, glasses with clear eye frames and bright blue leg frames. Today I'm wearing a button-down shirt that is sort of navy and black checkered. I have a blurred background, and I'm coming to you today from Asbury Park, New Jersey, land of the Lenni Lenape. And I'm so happy to say a good morning to Kat Lilly. Good morning, Kat.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kat Lilly. I'm the Access Coordinator with the New Jersey Theater Alliance. I'm a white female in my early 40s. I have long brown hair that comes down just past my shoulders. It's going white, but just in the front. I call them my rogue streaks, like Rogue from X-Men. And I have glasses on with blue and purple frames. And today I'm wearing a gray sweater with three-quarter length sleeves. I have a blurred background, and I'm coming to you from Medford, New Jersey, land of the Lenni Lenape. I will also be reading questions from the chat out to everyone as we go through our session today. You're also feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you to ask a question as well. If I thumbs up your question, it means that I have seen it and we're going to try our best to get to everyone's questions. And I do ask that you please keep those questions to the chat and try not to private message unless you absolutely need to, because it can get a little hectic. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kat. Good morning, Lindsay.
Hi, John. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Dandio. I'm the program officer and also the access coordinator at the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman in my late 40s. I have kind of below shoulder length brown hair. Today, I'm wearing a light beige, short-sleeved sweater top. I'm also wearing tortoiseshell framed glasses and silver and amber earrings. I have a blurred background behind me, and I am coming to you from our offices in Trenton, from the unceded land of the Lenni Lenape. And access is a priority for the Arts Council. We are so pleased and so grateful to be able to partner with the Theater Alliance and the Cultural Access Network to provide this panel discussion and peer learning for the cultural community. I just have to say as well that dementia has touched my family's life personally, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion. So I'm really happy to share this virtual space with you today.
Thank you, Lindsay. And we have many members joining us today from our Cultural Access Network Committee. We're very grateful to the committee that helped guide the Cultural Access Network in our various programs and initiatives for the field. So we thank them all for their time, guidance, and many of them being with us this morning. So very excited to have our colleagues with us to help us jumpstart this conversation today. I'm going to introduce each individual who will introduce themselves and share a little bit about their own organization, and then we'll get into some deep conversations. So I want to first start off with a good morning to Susan. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning, Kat. I'm so delighted to be here. My name is Susan Schifrin. I use she, her pronouns. I am the founder and director of Arts Philadelphia. I am a white woman in her mid 60s with gray verging on white hair, short hair. I'm wearing a brightly colored, actually arts colored, floral shirt. My background is blurred, and I am coming to you from, believe it or not, Plowville, Pennsylvania, about 50 miles outside of Philadelphia. Um, just very briefly, I founded Arts Philadelphia in 2013 because as an art historian, as a museum curator and educator, and as the daughter of a woman who lived with dementia for nearly 20 years, I knew that there was a need for spaces in which people living with dementia and their care partners could be themselves, could gather around cultural, arts-based interactions, and find joy in the midst of their journeys. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Susan. Good morning, Jenna.
Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here this morning. My name is Jenna Newicker, and I'm a Programs and Services Coordinator at Alzheimer's New Jersey. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white woman in my mid-20s. I have somewhat long brown hair. I'm wearing a gray sweater, which is rolled up on my sleeves because it's quite warm in here. I'm wearing a silver watch and I have a gray plain background. And I'm coming to you from Roseland, New Jersey, where our office is headquartered. And just a little bit about our organization. Alzheimer's New Jersey was originally a part of the Alzheimer's Association, which I'm sure you're all aware of, but we disaffiliated back in 2015 so that we could keep all of our resources and all of our funding specifically in New Jersey so that we could give our all to the people in our home state. So we have a number of different programs and services that are geared towards the caregivers of people who have a loved one with dementia. And it's really just to make their lives a little easier, give them some extra support and education, and just guide them through this journey because it's not easy and it's really difficult. And we just want to get them all the programs and the things that are necessary for them throughout this. So that's a little bit about us.
Thanks, Jenna. And good morning, Greta.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Greta Mulchandani. I am the Associate Director of Operations and Community Programs at New Jersey Symphony, and I'm also our ADA coordinator. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white female with straight, dirty blonde hair, wearing a gray sweater with a collar on it today. Have a mostly white background here, and I'm coming to you from our offices in Newark, New Jersey. Super excited today to talk a little bit more about specifically our relaxed performance model. We piloted our first relaxed performance in 2024, but they're really designed to accommodate the differing needs of patrons of all abilities and giving them access to classical music and different resources that will help them most enjoy the music that they're seeing and hearing on stage. We also, after our pilot efforts in 2024, realized that our seniors and aging population, which makes up a large majority of our classical concert series, could really benefit from many of these accommodations that we provide at relaxed performances. So I'll talk a little bit about how we continue to accommodate those folks.
Great, thank you. Hello, Brandon.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Brandon Truitt. I use he, him pronouns. The Mellon Head of Learning and Community Engagement at the Zimmerly Art Museum at Rutgers University. I'm a white cis gay man in his mid-30s, and I'm wearing a turquoise shirt. You can't see, but it is very fabulous. And I'm wearing also yellow frames that are kind of turquoisey. They don't, sorry, marbled, and I have strawberry blonde curly hair and a very messy bookcase behind me in my office, coming to you from New Brunswick, on the campus of Rutgers and the territories of the Lenape people. So what I'm hoping to talk with y'all about today is initiative. I mean, I resonate with what Lindsay said. Accessibility, access is centered to everything we do at the Zimmerly. But I particularly will talk about our year-long planning for a symposium, which is happening, can you believe it, next week, our Art Heals, Empowering Practitioners to Lead, which is a really robust partnership with Arts Institute of Middlesex County, where we're bringing in consultants from the Jordan Spencer Museum of Art at University of Oregon, one of our Big Ten collaborators on the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, to really convene a day of learning around how to develop programs for people with memory loss, but also creative aging. So there'll be like hands-on workshops, art activities, how to do them for people with memory loss, and also how to lead a tour in a fine art museum, since Rutgers or Zimmerly is a fine arts museum. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. I think we're kind of still in the learning process as our museum of how to launch these initiatives, and we'll be planning to launch our own series of programming in the fall. But this is kind of a great goalpost for us in our planning process.
Great. Thanks, Brandon. Well, this is definitely, as we all know, a peer-to-peer learning space. So we're all going to be learning a lot from each other and look forward to everyone's comments and questions as we go through the morning together. So I'd love us to just start to hear from each of you of, for our colleagues that have joined us, just this is something that folks would, I think, Susan, when we chatted earlier, you said so often individuals with dementia aren't really considered when you think of access. It's not always a group of individuals that organizations typically think of on how to make an accessible environment, right? So, love to just hear from each of you how your organizations got involved in this. We all have to start somewhere, right? So, if you could just maybe start with where your journey began in serving this particular group of individuals. And I love also that you've all mentioned, and many of us here, I think, on the call have been caretakers of individuals. And as we talk today, I think it's important to also think about how you're engaging and working with the caretaker, right? So, Susan, if I could start with you to just share a bit about, I know that you started your organization, I think you said back in 2013, did you say?
That's right.
So, how did that, maybe just take us a little bit on the journey, and then how did you kind of get started to get the work, to get this going? So maybe share a little bit about how the journey got started for you.
Absolutely. So my background is that I did my doctorate in art history. I taught at the university level. I spent most of my career in museums, and that was in the capacity of curator or educator. At my last museum, the Berman Museum of Art at Ursinus College, just outside of Philadelphia, um, I was very happily given a lot of leeway by the director of the museum to develop programming and priorities as I saw fit. And one of the things that kept coming up with my students was their interest in accessibility. Um, and, we can talk, I'd love to talk a little later about how I personally define accessibility. It's a little different perhaps than
Mhm.
me. But long story short, we did an exhibition, I and two students, using the objects from our permanent collection to model how a small museum's permanent collections could be used to create equitable, inclusive, accessible spaces. We worked with advisors from the deaf community, from advisors on the spectrum, advisors with low vision, and advisors living with dementia. And as part of the programming for the exhibition, we also worked with an organization known as Artists for Alzheimer's otherwise known as ARTZ. That's where our name came from. Based in the Boston area. They actually were very involved in helping MoMA to start its Meet Me at MoMA program. And I received training in how to provide programs for people living with dementia. What I saw in the galleries, people living with dementia who came from a local continuing care community, people who came from Baltimore. I mean, and our sinus is not exactly on the beaten path. It's off the beaten path. So I was really struck by the fact that there were people coming substantial distances to come to these programs we were doing. So when in 2013 it was time for me to move on, I made the decision with some trepidation to start a nonprofit. That nonprofit started with me, one program in a care facility and one program at a partner museum, Woodmere Art Museum in Chestnut Hill. And that year, we reached about 100 people. From the very beginning, our organization has been equally focused on supporting people living with every kind of dementia imaginable and their care partners. And we continue that dual focus to this day. So that's how Arts Philadelphia came to be.
That's great. And we're going to dive deeper in a bit. So, Greta, if you could just share just, how you and your colleagues at the symphony, how did you say, oh, let's take our commitment to access here and how in terms of broadening it to a constituent base with dementia, and just talk a little bit about the journey and how that got started at the symphony.
Sure. Yeah. So, like many of probably all the organizations on this call, accessibility is a huge piece of our mission. And we're a statewide organization. So, accessibility primarily, we want to make sure that people from all over the state can not only attend performances, but have, a great experience. We developed our model of relaxed performances, as I mentioned, starting in 2024, really kind of seeing other orchestras across the country start to do sensory-friendly concerts, family concerts, kind of taking their own spin on what accessibility looks like to them and in the music realm. We decided that this was something that we definitely wanted to take on. And originally, we piloted relaxed performances at our family concert in 2024, where we see a lot of families with young kids in attendance, and we thought that this might be a great place to start for those that were kind of very open to any kinds of new things that we wanted to try. And I will mention that at our relaxed performances, the music that you hear on stage remains unchanged. So if you were to attend another concert that weekend, that was not a relaxed performance, it's the same exact concert. You're hearing the same music. Just at our relaxed performances, we kind of do a few things a little bit differently, kind of front of house things and on stage. So, for example, we have a host on stage at relaxed performances to kind of walk us through the concert. We have a slideshow projected on either side of the stage as kind of a visual piece. We have activity sheets, sensory guides, a relaxation room outside of the hall where folks can go if they're feeling overwhelmed. And so originally it kind of began as like a sensory-friendly model. And really newly this year, we began extending this to our Thursday matinee concerts where our audience is largely seniors at these concerts. They arrive from senior communities throughout the state on buses on Thursdays, and it's a huge audience that day, and it's really great. And we realized that seniors and this aging population could really benefit from a lot of those accommodations. So a relaxation room is not only a place outside the hall where patrons can go to take a break if they're feeling overwhelmed, but there also are comfortable chairs and couches. So if someone's back is hurting, or they're sitting for over an hour, or they have a caretaker with them that needs to assist them with an oxygen tank or anything else during the concert, that's a place of refuge that they can take advantage of during the concert. And we can kind of talk about this maybe later on in the conversation, but we began partnering with other organizations throughout the state to kind of spread the word as promotional partners. And so one of our partners is actually Jenna and her team at Alzheimer's New Jersey. They helped promote two of our concerts this year. Both were Thursday matinees, again, where we see that senior population. And they can set up a table at NJPAC in Newark with information and services that they provide, which our older audiences can really benefit from, whether it's asking for information about Alzheimer's and dementia for themselves or a friend or a family member. So that's kind of the way that we are starting to begin bringing in the conversation of dementia and Alzheimer's, and surrounding, music encompassing all of that, is kind of by partnering with these organizations that really are on the ground and are the experts on these topics.
That's great. And Jenna, we will definitely be getting to you in a moment because that's a good segue, but in a few minutes. So, Brandon, if you could just, I know that you had shared with us in your intro that the Zimmerly, you're just beginning your journey a bit, but just again, how is the museum? What conversations have you had with your colleagues? How has the museum started to, um, what prompted you to start to think about engaging and learning more about uh, engaging this constituency into the museum's programming?
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said, the accessibility is really central to everything that we do and offer to be a welcoming space for all across Middlesex County, but also the state, since we are also on the State University of New Jersey. So we had an exhibition called Smoke and Mirrors in 2024 that was guest curated by Amanda Kesha, disability arts scholar, activist, that included 12 artists and collectives of contemporary artists with disabilities across the spectrum from developmental, cognitive, and physical disabilities. And we learned so much from that planning and implementation of the exhibition and the programming that it was associated with it. One thing, I can't go into all the details, obviously, but one thing that we learned was just the importance of a universal design approach to our exhibition design, our exhibition program, but also programming that I oversee in my department. I want to shout out Claire, who's on the call, because she's the key person on my team who works with me on these initiatives. So we're thinking about different ways to kind of continue the engagement with these populations, with the exhibitions. And we've done that in many different ways, but we were approached by the Arts Institute of Middlesex County, Lindsay Urban, the director, and Amanda Gorsinger, to think about the data that they were receiving from the Office of Aging about a growing population of people who could really benefit from this programming across the county, but that there wasn't really a lot of professional development yet in place for the community arts partners to come together as a network across the county to provide these resources and programming for people who are aging, but also who are affected by dementia and memory loss. And Lindsay has professional experience before becoming director of the Arts Institute as a museum educator for people with dementia. So there's a lot of synergy there with the partners. Like what Greta said, it was really like leaning on our partners. And so we were kind of thinking about our network and the Big Ten Academic Museum Alliance. One of the standout museums is the Jordan Smithson Museum of Art, University of Oregon, who we had just almost like serendipitously had a call, but they had a presentation on their 15-year program called Art Heals. And part of that is a really research-based and long-time implementation of a program that they call ARC, attention, reflection, creative connection. And it's a way of providing an interactive, creative, and tour-based program for people with memory loss, in partnership with the Oregon Health and Science University. So the healthcare settings also be really connected. And just a shout out, Lisa Bia Smith is the director of education there, alongside her colleague Rose Oakman and Dr. Elizabeth Lottie are kind of the team that we're bringing to the symposium next week. And we've been planning with them to design the workshops for the whole day, that will both like show people how to do process-based art making, the beginning part of the day, and then later go to the museum. So the first part will be at the New Brunswick Performing Arts Center, and then later at the Zimmerly to kind of like what Susan mentioned, these kind of programs like Meet Me at MoMA, where how do you lead a tour for people with memory loss? Um, and a lot of like synergy that last year happened where MoMA had their 20th anniversary of Meet Me at MoMA. So we were invited to attend their symposium in November. We learned so much from colleagues in New York, where a lot of different museums in New York were there at the symposium showing how they model and modeling tours for people with memory loss. So we invited Lara Schweller, who's on the Access program team there, to give a workshop for people who are also like us in the early stages of developing workshops. But the goal is to then kind of come together as a network of arts partners in Middlesex County to implement these workshops. But the day will be kind of a day of learning for us to figure that out. But we're already kind of like ahead, kind of thinking about our program. We'll be adopting a lot of the approaches that are research based from the JSMA at Oregon, that will use that as a template for us to implement in the fall. For a visual art space. But of course, the performing art space, like Greta mentioned, will take different approaches. But for us, it's like how to activate the permanent collection and add in really fun creative activities along the way.
Great. So I'd love to chat. This is where Jenna comes in. So we didn't forget you, Jenna. Because we start to get our program started, right? And I think whether it's these initiatives or anything around access, one of the things that we see often is that the word isn't getting out. They're not necessarily getting to the right organizations as partners. They're not even letting their general audience know about what they're offering. So, Jenna, maybe share a little bit about your organization, the resources, and maybe, Greta got us started on your partnership, but maybe dive a little bit deeper on your partnership with the symphony and how that works.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the really great things that we're able to do because we are a New Jersey specific organization is when certain places like the Symphony or museums throughout New Jersey are doing certain events like this, we're able to keep we have like a internal database for resources throughout the entire state of New Jersey. So every county has a folder, and we break it up by, what the resource is. So, for example, when Greta's doing the symphony program, we had a flyer created. We save it in the resource folder for all of the surrounding counties and people who would be interested. And then we're able to speak with caregivers who this is a constant struggle for of being able to find places where they can bring their loved one with dementia. Not every space is going to be dementia friendly, and this disease can really impact the way that people, are able to regulate their behaviors and their emotions and their ability to communicate. So it's not going to be appropriate for them to go everywhere, and they're going to lean on us to then find those kind of places. So when we're able to share that there's, a concert at the symphony that's going to be dementia friendly, or there's a dementia tour at a museum, we're able to get those resources right over to them if we have the flyers and all the information. And then also when we're able to partner on these programs, like for example, when we were at the symphony concert last month, we have a program bulletin that we send out to all of our community partners in the state of New Jersey. So it goes to doctors, it goes to all the offices on aging, all of those types of people see the event that then we're partnered with so that they know they can share it with these specific caregivers and this population because it is dementia friendly because we kind of like put our stamp on it, if you will. So then that's how we can kind of get the word out. And when we did the symphony program, we shared it at all of our caregiver support groups. We have them across the entire state. So every support group got the flyer that had this symphony information. And it was kind of a shame because, some of the people who are further down south, in Monmouth and Ocean County, obviously are not going to make that trip. But it was just the reaction to it was overly positive. It's something that people really want. These programs are really hard to find. So the fact that, there's discussions like this and things are happening more and more, it's really exciting because it's a major need. And I know it can feel very daunting for certain organizations to kind of start doing these types of programs. Dementia is really confusing and it can be a little scary and overwhelming if you don't know everything about it. Um, so, it's just a matter of educating yourself, your staff on the best way to kind of go about these types of programs and being able to accommodate this population and their caregivers and everyone involved. So, yeah, it's a big task, but it's definitely very appreciated and much, much needed for sure.
That's great. And in terms of are there do you have any do you offer any public gatherings, your agency, where arts organizations might be able to come and learn about your agency, learn about the resources? Because I think what you mentioned is the education is the first place to start, right?
Yes.
So, any suggestions you have on the best if an arts organization, and I know we shared a little bit of it here, but just to talk about where to start to begin to educate yourself and your colleagues on how to create a dementia inclusive environment.
Yes, yeah. So, and it's not just our organization. I just want to preface that. There's
Mhm.
tons of different organizations for this disease, thankfully. So it's, you don't just have to lean on us. Everyone is educating people in different ways, thankfully, because this disease definitely needs that awareness. But there's a lot of different ways that you can go about educating yourself. So we do monthly webinars that go over tons of different topics. We cycle them out every single month. So we have one specifically on understanding dementia, which goes over what this disease really is, how it impacts the person, how it changes throughout the stages, how the disease progresses. Um, and then different things that the caregivers can do to accommodate the person, which is also helpful for everyone else in the community to kind of know about as well. We go over communication tips. We go over the changes in behavior and how you can kind of, pick up on nonverbal communication and different things like that. And then we have one specifically on communication tips and techniques. We have managing behavior changes. All of those can be really helpful to not only caregivers, but people who just want to be able to accommodate this population. And then there's also, we actually are recently doing this. The library systems throughout New Jersey have started reaching out to us to try to also become dementia-friendly spaces. So we've
Mm.
started doing training specifically for library staff. So, for example, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be down in Monmouth County and I'm going to be doing a training for their entire library system for Monmouth County. So all of the librarians will be there and we're just going to be talking about how we can make those spaces dementia friendly, a little bit about the disease, because again, if you don't know much about it, it can be a little scary, and just communication tips and different things like that. So we're always happy to do that for groups as well if people are interested in that. We've done it for banks, we're doing it for libraries. So we're really happy to go about this because we want spaces to be dementia friendly. There's tons of like tip sheets online and fact sheets, just like quick little pieces of information that you can take in. Not everyone has the time to sit down for, an hour-long training or a webinar or things like that. So there's tons of different things. It's really just getting an understanding of what the disease is, the impact that it has on the caregiver as well, and the importance of staying social and interacting and all of those different types of things. Communication tips are really going to be a huge thing to take in, just understanding how you can communicate with people with dementia, because communication is going to be possible throughout every stage of this disease. It's just a matter of meeting the person where they're at and communicating with them at the level that they're able to. And then just being able to pick up on some of those behavior changes as well, because people lose the ability to regulate their behaviors and their emotions as this disease progresses as well. So it's just getting an understanding of that. And just, yeah, making that awareness and
Mhm.
educating yourself. So there's tons of different tools, and we are more than happy to help with that as well. And you can always call our helpline too if people are starting to, have an interest in getting these types of programs involved. We are more than happy to, sit on a call with you and just help you out again if you don't have all that time for these trainings and webinars and things like that.
That's great. Susan, so just in terms of, you shared with us how your organization got started, but are you also a resource to the Philadelphia area as your arts colleagues are looking to gain their awareness of this and perhaps creating a dementia-friendly environment?
Absolutely. I will say that since since Arts Philly came to be, I've consulted with a number of museums in the Philadelphia area, but also across the country, um, in helping them to kind of audit the needs of their constituents, looking at their spaces, and figuring out where it's going to be challenging to navigate them, spaces that might be particularly welcoming. And then, so the Michener Museum in the suburbs of Philadelphia, in
Mhm.
Doylestown, um, started a program 2015, I think, an internal program called Art for All, and I worked with them to train their docents. So the bottom line is, I'm delighted always to have conversations with colleagues, to share some of the learnings that we are constantly having, 13, 14 years later, we're learning every day, mostly from the people we serve. And I always joke that my goal is ultimately to put ourselves out of business, because what we want more than anything is for the greater Philadelphia area and beyond to be welcoming and validating to the people we serve. I will also say that Arts Philadelphia is a little bit confusing to people because it does suggest that we're only in Philadelphia. We are actually going to be moving some programs into South Jersey
Oh,
this
great.
year. So I'm really excited to be meeting some of our future colleagues. But yes, always, my team are always happy um, to share what we know, share resources, and also to be a resource for people living with dementia and their care partners.
That's great. Greta and Brandon, I'm going to ask you both just in terms of and Brandon, you touched upon this a little bit, but just to talk about how because you have to really engage all of your colleagues at your organizations, right? It's not just one or two people. It really becomes a cultural learning opportunity, right? So maybe if you could just talk a little bit about how you're engaging and educating yourselves, of course, but also how you're engaging your organization as a whole. So, Greta, why don't we start with you?
Sure, yeah. So this is a huge piece. And obviously when we're putting on, a concert with full orchestra at NJPAC, it's a large undertaking. And so I'm working with my colleagues in our artistic department to make sure that the concerts that we're selecting as relaxed performances for the upcoming season make sense. And that the audiences that we hope to invite to those spaces will enjoy. So yes, we're always educating ourselves. And again, this comes back to working with different partners and other organizations, statewide organizations like Alzheimer's New Jersey. We also have been in conversations with New Jersey Association for Music Therapy, other educational institutions that work directly with students or adults with disabilities, like PG Chambers School, A. Harry Moore School, they're in Jersey City, the Way Center, even larger institutions like Montclair State. They're going to be a promotional partner of ours on our next concert in April. And Kane University, they've been wonderful and even providing student volunteers from their music therapy program. So it really just is about connecting with the organizations that are the experts. And I believe we connected originally with Jenna and her team at like an arts and wellness fair at NJPAC. That was kind of a tabling event where we're all sharing resources. So those are other great spaces to make those connections. And then as far as educating, staff and training staff, that's something that we're kind of working on getting a formal process in place for. It is a little bit different because we rent our venues, such as NJPAC, the Symphony rents that space. And so all of their ushers that are on site the day of the concert, they are trained, but we are not directly involved in that training. So it's kind of we trust that they are well equipped, and also we want to make sure that we have volunteers and our own staff members are trained in kind of the best way to help out the vast range of patrons and their abilities that will be there on the day of the concert.
All right. Brendan, how about Zimmerly?
Sure. Maybe I can share. I mean, since we're still in the planning phases of launching our own programming, but it is involved, as I said, the initial kind of meeting with Arts Institute of Middlesex County last February 2025. So that was like the meeting where we got together, sort of brainstorming how to bring the symposium to fruition, and then identifying like our key collaborators being JSMA in Oregon, Museum of Modern Art, that we wanted there to be there to kind of assist and consult on the workshops that we were providing as resources for arts partners across Middlesex County who are both grantees, but also students at Rutgers. So a catalyst of this symposium has been conversations with Robert Wood Johnson Medical School and the Arts Institute, I'm sorry, the Mason Gross School of the Arts and their new Arts and Health initiative. So we've been kind of putting pieces together. Was really in conversation with these different parts of Rutgers to see how we can also engage the medical professionals, which, as we learned from Jordan Snitzer Museum, that is key to their success. So I've been in close conversation with one of the deans of the medical school as they move the medical school so close to the Zimmerly, which is going to be amazing, and how we can also be a bridge between both the medical professionals and their patients. And I think a lot of the other learning that year was like Amanda and Claire and more team at Arts Institute going to the NOAA conference and learning a lot from I think it's National Organization for Arts and Health conference last year, the symposium at MoMA, going there. So it was kind of like, it was a year of learning and planning, and then getting the symposium together so that we can share out the work that we've been doing together with Middlesex Arts Institute to organize. But I see Claire might have another note because she was also involved in this.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Not piggybacking off of what you said, but I think sort of tangentially, we had been approached by a neurologist at Robert Wood about developing some sort of hands-on art making workshop museum experience for individuals with Parkinson's and their caretakers. Particularly because for Parkinson's, so many of the programs that are like popularly accessible are related to music and dance, and there wasn't as much in the visual arts. And Parkinson's often does have a dementia or memory loss component with it, which is, I think, less focused on in terms of like the popular representations of Parkinson's. So we were approached and worked on that for several iterations of a workshop, but I think what we found and what I heard from folks that came, which it was a very small attendance, maybe like 3 to 5 partners, so maybe 10 people max, was that it was so sort of dependent on how the individual was feeling that day, whether or not they were able to make the trek out to the museum and participate. And people were welcome to stay for as however long as they wished. But I think in talking with the neurologist, and he was, pushing it to his patients and their families, but it was really hard for us to sort of get that program ramped up. Um, but I think in listening to what you all have said, I think especially Jenna, like the networks that you have and the reach, I think that Alzheimer's New Jersey can get might help us sort of get the word out differently this time. The Parkinson's program was more of an initiative with the Parkinson's Foundation and or Association and Robert Wood Johnson, whereas I feel like our forthcoming Alzheimer's creative aging program will be almost more of a Zimmerly forward initiative in a way where we'll be the ones promoting it directly. So I think, being able to sort of have a better sense of who is interested and how far our reach can go will be really helpful. But I think we do have like a large interest in just making the museum as welcoming as possible for any visitors and making sure people feel like there is something for them here. So I think, at least for me working on the Parkinson's project, I think we can sort of like revamp that up by starting with memory loss and sort of expanding our networks out from there. So I'm excited to be part of it. It's exciting to see what's coming down the pike and what you all are working on, and I'll email some of you later.
I just want to share that there are a number of
I was
resources.
just gonna mention, Kat, the chat looks like there's quite a bit of activity there.
Yes, there's a number of resources being shared in the chat. So I did provide links to all of our organizations that are here today, to the Zimmerly Symposium as well, if you would like to register for that. And then Piper shared a great resource for the Memory Cafe Alliance through Dementia Friendly America. Greta shared a page talking about the relaxed performances with the New Jersey Symphony. Then Piper just says that they noticed the lack of visual arts programming for Parkinson's as well, and that they're working with the local nonprofit makerspace to add sensory tools and kinesthetic tools to their activities. Yeah, and that catches us up on the chat. And please feel free to click on any of those. And if you need any of the resources after this is over, you can also email me and I'll be happy to email you those as well.
Great, thank you. So, Brandon, I think you have an example of some programming at the Zimmerly. Would you like to share that with give it an intro and share that with our colleagues?
Sure. It's actually a video from our colleagues at the Jordan Snitzer Museum. So it demonstrates their Art Heals programming for people with memory loss, both in the gallery and the process-based art making. So it's about a 5-minute video. It's interviews with Lisa, Dr. Elizabeth Lottie, and Rose, who work at the Jordan Snitzer Museum, and then an interview with one of their participants, who is someone affected by memory loss. So I'll screen it now and then maybe have a discussion about it.
Great, thank you.
Oh, and of course it's not playing, which it was when we just tested it. Let me see if I can fix it on my end.
In the meantime, I'll just add that, after watching this video, I think it's something that Brandon and I are very interested in aspiring toward. Like, if our programming could be half of what JSMA is putting forth, like, we'll be happy. So yeah, it's wonderful.
What do people see in this work of art?
Reflection and Connections is part of our Art Heals program, which centers around providing time for adults who might have early onset dementia or Alzheimer's, as well as their caregivers, with an opportunity to use art to explore their own health journeys and really forge connections between the two.
So we have developed a framework that we call the ARC framework, ARCC, and that stands for attention, reflection, creation, and connection.
What time of year does this seem like to you?
The ARC framework starts with attention, and this is really the idea of slowing down and noticing. So rather than walking through a museum and looking at 12 different works of art, we're really slowing down and looking at one and thinking about what we notice.
They would see things that I didn't see. And that would, so this exchange, that was particularly valuable for me, to see art in a different way.
We know that this strategy supports neuroplasticity of the brain. We know that it helps slow down your heart rate. We know that cortisol levels can be lowered after 12 minutes of looking at works of art and making works of art.
I have vascular dementia. My husband Lee and I came to the very first Reflections and Connections in August of 2018. The first time was a revelation. I had gone to museums, of course, but never really talked about the art with anyone. So we had a discussion, and while everyone else knew a lot more than I did, they didn't make me feel bad about what I didn't know, and they validated what I thought and felt.
The reflection piece is really thinking about, well, now that I've noticed this, what does it mean? What does it mean to me? And what does it mean to other people?
My wife, who was the reason we came here, she immediately showed interest in it. It connected to her artistic sense of what was right and how things worked. But more importantly is that she really connected to the other participants. And that's, I think, one of the magic things about this program is that it brings people who are suffering from some degree of disability and gives them a chance to interact without being in a facility or something. You're in a place that is just spectacular in terms of the art that's here.
The creation part is an opportunity to tap into what everybody has inside, which is this ability to create.
We did an art project with watercolors, and I fell in love with them. And then I love coming here because there are people like me who probably find it hard to leave their home, but we come for each other because we've become a community.
Art really we can consider an antidote to what we find so much in our world today with loneliness and feeling isolation. Looking at art and creating art is such a powerful way to find connection with one another and even give you a language that you might not even be aware of verbally. You can help express it through your hands and through creative making.
I feel expressive. One of the things that I feel that I was able to do is put down on paper or cloth my feelings. It felt good.
What happens in these workshops is that the people in the room really start to connect with one another and have this moment of shared humanity.
So I love, just as a nonprofit professional, that museums can be this third space for people. We know that the baby boomer generation coming of age, there are going to be so many more older adults. And it's really an opportunity for museums to connect and to foster these important connections with this growing population in the United States.
You don't know how many pieces of sculpture we have around our house because we did them here. You know, it makes me feel accomplished every time I look at them because this is something I have done that I didn't know I could do, that nobody guessed I could do. And I'm still learning, I'm still evolving, and I'm still me. And that's the greatest gift this program has given me.
That's wonderful, really, very impactful. Um, and maybe, Brandon, as you mentioned, maybe just to take a couple of moments just to talk about the piece that we just saw, any questions, something that came up uh, for
Yeah.
you.
I almost I get choked up when I watch it because it's just so impactful. But I feel like they just described so well the multimodal aspect of a workshop that we're hoping to also implement at the museum, because so much of what we do is, of course, like I said it back in earlier in my opening, like we think about universal design and everything that we do. So often our pedagogy at the museum is a gallery teaching focused on conversation, connection with anchored by works of art for all populations. So our pedagogy is like can be implemented in this way, like they talk about with organizing a conversation around a work, and then how to even evolve that and putting the person and the workshop in the empowering them into the role of the maker, which I think is something that I think is extraordinary. Um, so encouraging you all to come to the symposium and learn from these brilliant, brilliant arts professionals who I think have just created a stellar programming. And it's really for anyone. You don't need to be just a fine arts museum. I think they are interested in showing at the symposium how it can also be useful across the arts as well.
See, Arlene, you have your hand up. Hello, Arlene. Arlene is a member of our Cultural Access Network committee and longtime colleague and friend, especially promoting the impact of access for those with hearing loss. Hi, Arlene.
Yeah, there are parts of us you don't know, but my mother had Alzheimer's and progressive and to start to finish about 8 years. So, and she was a musician, music teacher, cellist. She was able to play her cello until she wasn't. So, I mean, I'm looking at all these presentations and I know that it's making the most of that period of time where the person with Alzheimer's still is able to function and to take instruction and whatever. I mean, I guess I could write a whole paper on my impression on this because, uh, John, I was doing this before my cochlear implants. All right. And my mother was interpreting for me. I could understand her voice, whereas my hearing and her memory don't even ask. So we all have our own experience. But as you know, I was very involved with access for the arts for people with hearing loss, particularly. So this just talks to me, the having this awareness. I just really, from my lived experience, you're focusing on that window of opportunity where these patients, these people with Alzheimer's are able to function in these environments, that they're able to do it. And I think it also has to be realized that you're catching a moment in time we're able to do it, and it's gonna pass. I mean, the language here was well aware of that. And and I think it's just as important for the caretaker, if they're a relative, to enjoy these programs as well. I would have loved it.
Could I just respond to
Yeah,
Arlene?
yeah.
So Arlene, thank you so much for sharing the nuances of your relationship with your mom. Um, I do want to say that, many programs focus on people, as Arlene said, in that sort of passage of time where they're still very cognitively engaged. Um, our organization, on the other hand, works with people from pre-diagnosis through hospice. And I'm just here to
I
say
have to
that,
say, I've been the
yeah, of
entire,
course, you've lived it, right?
yeah.
But even if somebody is no longer verbal, even if somebody is dozing at a session, they're still taking in um, what's going on around them. And we've had many experiences where someone has dozed through three-quarters of a session in a museum, and suddenly they perk up and start engaging.
And I would say because that person is still welcome, the caregiver or caretaker or relative is enjoying this program as well. It's a place where a real place where they could go, and it gives me a little goosebumps talking to you like this, that gee, John can tell you I've been involved with advocacy for people with hearing loss for 30 years, as long as all this has begun. New Jersey was the place to be. We made big, we conquered big advocacy issues before anyone else. So I love talking to you about this because that caregiver is benefiting from this as much as, and if you're willing to have the person who is affected by Alzheimer's in whatever condition, but that caregiver can still come, that really talks to me. I think we're talking, yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't really expect to say this, but there you go.
Mhm.
I wanted to just if it's okay,
Yeah,
to
please.
piggyback off of what Susan kind of just said, that the arts are impactful for people with this disease throughout the entire progression. Um, Obviously, in the video that Brandon just showed, a lot of those people are still able to go about, doing the paintings and having the conversations and doing those things, which are so important pre-diagnosis and, for that early diagnosis, because those types of interactions can even help slow down the progression of this disease, which is so important. So having these types of spaces where they can, be creative and use those parts of their brain, and it's benefiting their brain too, as it said in the video. Music, art, all of those different types of things, plays, those things, they're stimulating parts of the mind that are so important. So it can slow down the progression, and being able to stay social throughout the disease is also really beneficial for how this disease progresses too. So, even if they're not able, like Susan said, to communicate and maybe do the art, while they're sitting there, they're still getting something out of it. It's still so beneficial. Even if they fall asleep, at the symphony concert that Greta hosts, it's still beneficial and it's still a big outing for them. So it's not a matter of how it might come off as them enjoying it. They're benefiting from it, and the caregiver's benefiting greatly. This disease can cause the person with dementia to become isolated, and also the caregiver. They just want to stay home. They don't want to go out in public and cause a scene or be embarrassed of, what might happen. So they just stay inside, and they don't get these socializations and these amazing programs. They're missing out on all of these things. So when they are, told that something is dementia friendly, and they can feel comfortable going to that space and having their loved one, maybe fall asleep or, say something that's a little out there, and they don't have to be worried or embarrassed. It's just so extremely beneficial. So I'm grateful that I can be here to talk about this with all of you. And I'm so excited to hear how so many of you are starting these programs, because they're so beneficial for the entire community to just kind of spread awareness about the disease. But it's also so beneficial for the person with dementia and for their caregiver. So I just wanted to jump in and say that.
I would call it what we call mitzvah work, blessings to do it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As we talk about the caregiver, just so glad that we've put a lot of focus also on the caregiver as part of this, and the Theater Alliance has had a program called Healing Voices, Caregiver Stories, where have partnered with Premier Stages at Kane University, McCarter Theater in Princeton, where individuals who, and we all can identify as a caregiver, right, could tell their story. And there would be some workshops, writing workshops that the theaters would offer, and folks would submit their stories. And most of the stories submitted were caregivers of those family members with dementia. And then the stories were read in a public performance by professional actors, and they would be very well attended by the family members. And I think it did give the caregiver a creative outlet to share what their experience was, to also hear and understand that they weren't alone in all of this, because it can feel very isolating, and to it really did build this sense of community. And so I think that the caregiving piece of this is so essential. And so for all of us to always think about how do we, that's equally important in this process, right?
John,
Yes.
I just want to tell you that my mother's progression was overlaying when we were spreading open captioning of live theater. Just give you some perspective, what you see every day, you don't even know what's going on behind the scenes. That was the period of time.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that.
I just want to share.
She was well cared for. She was provided for. I wasn't, the hands-on, but definitely involved. Very involved.
Kat?
Yes, I just wanted to share some things from the chat. So Samantha has provided a link to Time Slips. Time Slips pioneered evidence-based creative care methods to spark joy for both caregivers and older adults. So that could be a great resource for people. And then Susan shared a video from Arts Philadelphia Woodmere Art Museum programs, and also a welcome video for Arts Philadelphia if everyone would like to check that out. And the video that Brandon showed, there will be a link available soon for that. It's still an early version of the video, so there's not a link available at this time, but there will be one. And then Mary Bay asked if this event will be held again, talking about the Healing Voices event, John.
So the Healing Voices, right now, it's off to the side. We've just established the Theater and Health Bridge Project in partnership with a few medical centers around the state, Overlook Hospital in Summit and Newbridge Medical Center up in Paramus. We are looking to expand the theater and medical center partnerships, where they're going in, artists from our theaters are going in and providing different units of care. Art, there's a lot of music therapy, visual art therapy. There's not a lot of theater in our medical center environments. So again, we're learning on this journey. So we're starting small with just a couple of medical centers. So as that program moves forward, we're hoping to bring back the Healing Voices programming, that there'll be enough funding to have everything and have Healing Voices under the Theater and Health Bridge Project umbrella, if you will. But some of the elements that we learned from our Healing Voices programming are being implemented within the medical center setting. So we did Overlook Hospital. We did work with their cancer patients last year, and the cancer patients shared their personal stories with a couple of playwrights who then formed their stories into a theatrical piece that was then presented at the hospital for the family members and the medical staff. So elements of that Healing Voices programming are being implemented at the medical centers.
And Mary has asked if improv could be a part of that program.
Yes, we do a lot of improv. In fact, the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey, is working with the Memory Care unit, as well as their outpatient teen program, and all they're doing are to enrich their to enrich those individuals is all through improv. They did not want to share their stories. They did not want a public performance. And they go in once a week and work with these two departments, and it's all done through theater improvisation that they work and design in collaboration with the medical staff at the hospital.
And then I'm just going to share a couple more things. Susan Justiano shared that Healing Voices was an amazing experience as a caregiver who submitted a story that was performed. So thank you for that very kind comment.
Great.
And then Susan with Arts Philadelphia shared that Anne Basting, the creator of the Time Slips model, is a dramaturg and theater director. And another wonderful in-source for improv-based interactions is an episode of This American Life podcast called Magic Words.
Great. Thank you. So other questions, things that we want to share, what haven't we touched upon that could be helpful? So we're just going to open up the floor.
Could I say something about
Please. Yes.
inclusiveness and equity and accessibility when it comes to people living with dementia? So, my belief is that equity and accessibility are also about agency. And whereas it is now, thankfully, a more or less acknowledged model that if you go into a community of people living with disabilities or people who are historically underserved, you go in respectfully, you go in to learn. And then through the process of building trust and education, you co-create programs or initiatives. The only community in which that is not true is those living with dementia. They are not understood to be people who have the capacity to be heard or be actors in their own lives. So one of the things that we really advocate for at Arts Philadelphia is the notion that both care partners and people living with all kinds of dementia, we've talked a lot about Alzheimer's disease today, but there are so many different forms of dementia, that they are the people we should be going to determine what quality of life means to them. And so a lot of what we do, our educational initiatives, our neighborhood initiatives, which you can learn about on our website, are driven by people with dementia and their care partners. And I think it's just really important to keep reminding ourselves that everything we're all talking about is not about doing to people. It's about being with, learning from, and co-creating with people, whether they're care partners, people with dementia, people in the deaf community. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Thanks.
No, Susan, thank you so much for lifting that up. I could not agree with you more. We always try to drive home the point that as we're developing these programs, please include and engage those that we're looking to serve. So thank you so much for lifting that up. So important. Lindsay.
Hi, this is Lindsay. And I also thank you so much, Susan. I love that. I love that point so much as well for, also having lived experience. It's so, um, unique to the person and they have so much to share about. We should be listening to that person, and honoring what they need and what they want and what can help them, in whatever way they're able to communicate. Um, so the Arts Council periodically has a Creative Aging Initiative grant. I just wanted to uplift this. It provides eligible arts organizations, libraries, veterans homes, senior and community centers, colleges, university, units of government, costs to cover arts learning experiences for adults um, age 55 and over. So it's an adjacent grant that is just worth mentioning. Right now, there's no open opportunity, but we do anticipate opening up a new application process in spring of 2027. And my colleague Samantha Patel Clark is actually on the call, and she's done a lot of really wonderful work with arts and healing. And she kind of like heads up this program as well. Um, and she was the one actually who mentioned that resource in the chat. I can find it here. Time slips. So anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of be on the lookout for the Creative Aging Grant. And if there's anything that you have that we can help with at the Arts Council, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or to Samantha as well. And we're more than happy to help in whatever way that we can. Please do reach out to us. And I'll put my information in the chat as well.
Great. And as we're sharing some announcements, of course, there's the Zimmerly, just again, the program at Zimmerly on the 8th. Is that right?
The 9th.
The 9th. On the 9th. So that link was in the chat. We also sent it out to our cultural access distribution list. We want to make sure that you're all on our Cultural Access Network distribution list. If you're getting information on these roundtables, that means you are. But if for some reason you're hearing about things through a colleague and not getting communication directly, please let Kat know, and we're going to make sure that you get added to the list. We do have our next roundtable, the next and last Access Thursday roundtable for this fiscal year is on Thursday, May 7th. And this is really just come to the roundtable with any questions and thoughts, things you want to share about arts access. There's no specific topic. So it's just an open-ended peer-to-peer conversation. So please make sure you register and join us for that. And then our annual Cultural Access Summit, which we do each year at Grounds for Sculpture, will be launching that again on Thursday, May 28th. It's always a wonderful opportunity to be with our partners at Grounds for Sculpture. We start our morning with an education session around universal design, and really looking forward to that panel and discussion. And then we have a luncheon and an awards recognition component where we lift up organizations that are making a great contribution in the cultural access space through innovation and leadership. So that announcement and registration will be sent to you any day now. So please be on the outlook for that. And it's always a wonderful time to be together. So just wanted to share that with you. And also be on the outlook for the LEAD conference registration. This is the conference that's put on annually by the Kennedy Center. It is in our backyard this year in Philadelphia. And the Theater Alliance is very honored to be partnering on this conference with the Kennedy Center and our friends over at Art Reach Philadelphia. It's a wonderful, wonderful education opportunity and networking with all of our colleagues throughout the country. So please be on the out. As soon as I do get it and the registration opens, we'll be sure to get that off to you all so that you're aware of that opportunity, and hopefully you'll be able to join us. It's the second week of August. So I should know these dates by heart,
The
but Kat,
12th, the 12th through the 14th.
the 12th through the 14th, right? Any last minute? And I just want to give a shout out to Kat so much. Thank you, Kat, for bringing this topic to our attention to ensure that it got on the schedule. Really appreciate that. And this was really, I thank Brandon and I thank Susan and Greta and Jenna. Thank you very much for being with us and being able to share all of your great guidance and experiences as we all continue this journey. We really appreciate that as well. So,
I really encourage everyone to attend the LEAD conference. That was actually last year when we went. I attended two very fantastic sessions on this topic. And that's where I got the idea to bring this back to our community here. So I am also, my life also has been impacted by having loved ones with dementia. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, and then my grandmother later had age-related dementia. And they were in very small towns where there wasn't anything available. There was no programming, there was no resources. And when my grandfather started showing signs of Alzheimer's, my grandmother, who actually had not, they had not spoken in years, became his caregiver because that was before she was going through everything with her health. And they were very isolated. She felt very isolated. And I think having these kinds of programs would have been something that would have been excellent. And so I encourage everyone, if you're interested in starting something, please reach out. We're happy to put you in touch with whatever resources you need. And our panelists here are also happy to help provide you with resources. So I just really encourage everyone. I do also want to share that in just a moment, I'm going to be sharing a poll with everybody, or a survey with everybody that's just going to ask a few questions about today's session. And it'll also ask you if you have any suggestions for future roundtable sessions as we start to plan that for next year. So thank you so much.
thank you. So thank you, really. And all of you joining us today, really thank you for being with us and being a part of this important conversation. And Lindsay, any thoughts you want to share before we close the program?
Just echoing the thanks. Thank you so, so much to the panelists and to everyone who contributed to the discussion today. I think it's really exciting that the momentum seems to be really building in the state with arts and health and with this topic, and I really look forward to what's to come. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Greta, Jenna, Susan, Brandon, thank you once again for being with us and sharing your experiences and guidance and leading this discussion. We so appreciate you, and we wish everybody an incredible day. And we'll hopefully see you at the next roundtable on May 7th, and then again at our Cultural Access Summit at Grounds for Sculpture on May 28th. And we wish you all an incredible day. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.